Well, my name is John, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, John.
Well, there you are. So I didn't know I was going to do this either, which is pretty good because I'm the kind of guy that if I have enough time, I'll think about ways to make myself look better, or I have been known to lie a time or two. So I got sober April 30, 1989. Ken Down is my sponsor, and he's been my sponsor for, I can't be hard pressed to say how long, but quite a while. I had a guy named Jerry Shelton who moved up here from San Diego. He was my first sponsor, and when Jerry died, one of his first guys named Nick Card, I was with him, and then Nick got sick, and so I ended up with, or I didn't end up with, but I asked Kenny to help me. So, and I like being here tonight. I'm here with some super heavy hitters. Nancy and Steve have helped me a lot in the sober life. Dave has helped me a lot. Chuck, Laura. I used to work with Cindy. I know you from Fremont. I know John O'Hare. If you stay sober long enough, man, you'll meet a lot of people in the program and become friends with them. And so I'm really grateful for that. But I didn't come to AA looking for friendship. I got here because I could not quit drinking. That's how I got here. I got here. I first came to AA in 1979. I got arrested in rapid succession 4 times for drunk driving, and I got in a lot of trouble. And so I came to AA to get all that deal off my back. And I'm a nurse by training. I'd been kicked out of nursing school, and you know, I mean, everybody's got a story, but I was married, and the woman I was married to, you know, hated me because of some things that I had done, and I was not on a winning streak. But the reason that I came to AA was because I could not quit drinking, and I came to AA, and here's what happened to me. I came here, and I looked around, and I thought that this just looked terrible. I just thought it just didn't look strong enough. I stayed for 3 months, roughly. It's, you know, it was so long ago. I stayed for about 3 months. I went to a number of meetings, and I was at a meeting, and a guy, and in that particular meeting, they went around the circle. Everybody that was at the meeting got a chance to talk. And this guy who was sitting next to me, he talked, and he told this story about just this horrible thing that had happened between he and his wife. And then I was going to be the next person to talk. And I thought, and then he got done. He cracked up, started crying. You know, he couldn't really finish his sharing. And then it was my turn. And I stood up, and I looked at that guy, and I said, well, this is pathetic. And I left. And what happened for me was that I drank for 10 more years. And I drank every day. And I know this is an AA meeting, so I'm not going to talk about shooting coke and the heroin and all these other things. But I got loaded every single day, and it got so much worse for me. And what I mean by that is that in the end, when I came back to AA the second time in April of 1989, I was so afraid of drinking again. I was terrified to drink. I was terrified to use drugs because In the book, it talks about this idea, the allergy, this abnormal relationship that I have with alcohol. And so I would, and in my case, drugs, I would get loaded. All it took was one drink or one shot of cocaine, and I was completely, no matter what I thought was going to happen or what my plan was or any of that, and it just was a, it was just a, it was just a, it just, it was a world without end, that deal. So, and I was scared to death too. You know, I used to be afraid to tell the truth here, and now I know that some of these terrible things that I've been through are the things that really matter the most, the things that make me most worthwhile here. So, so I was so afraid, and I felt completely alone. Uh, and and uh, the things that really mattered to me most, I'd been married, and I was going to lose that, you know, my family life was going away. I had James was 5 and Hannah was 2 when I got sober. And Hannah is in AA now. She's 10 years sober. And go figure, right? But I mean, I would have done anything to have saved all that. And I knew that there was nothing there was nothing that I was going to be able to do to stop all that. So what happened was, man, I ended up, uh, I, I ended up. I'm going to kind of fast forward through some of this because I want to make sure and talk about what's happened to me in the steps here. But what happened was I ended up in Seattle. I got locked up in a detox center out in the Midwest in Iowa, and I got out of that, and then Roxanne informed me, was my soon-to-be ex-wife, informed me that she was moving out here. So I came out here because she was coming out here with the kids, and so I came out here, and I went to AA meetings, is what I did, and that's how I learned Seattle. I went to the first sponsor I had, Jerry Shelton. I told him that I was going to go to 90 meetings in 90 days. That's what I told him I said, I'm going to do 90 in 90. And he said, well, what are you going to do that for? And I thought, are you stupid? 90 meetings in 90 days. And he said, well, in your case, you are way too fucked up for 90 meetings in 90 days. You need like 1,200 meetings. And, it was like one of those kind of deals. But anyway, I went to a ton of meetings, started meeting people. I learned, where they were, what time they were. I started to recognize some of the people in them. And what happened for me, and if there's anyone new here, I don't mean to disturb you, but I'll just tell you what happened to me. What happened to me was going to all those meetings in that shape, and I got worse. I mean, I was physically separated from alcohol, but I got worse. I got more without alcohol. I realized that alcohol was the thing that helped me with some of these kinds of deals. And when I was physically separated from the alcohol, I got worse. I got worse, man. I was so jealous of the people that I saw that looked successful. I just got worse, man. And I couldn't figure that out. Going to all these meetings and hearing all this stuff. And finally one night there was a meeting on the north end, and it was called the Solution Group. And I didn't like the meeting because because they read out of the book, and they were doing stuff over there, and it didn't appeal to me. And but Jerry would go over there. This guy Jerry would go over there, and I knew that he was going over there, and he'd meet with these people before the meeting, and these people being guys that he was working with, sponsoring, and so I knew that he was over there with these cats. So I started going over there, and they'd have be back in the corner. And I started listening to what he was telling these people, and I wanted what that guy had. I knew that Jerry wasn't. There are a lot of people. I'm sure everybody's got their own experience with this. There are a lot of people in AA who, and I don't mean this disparagingly, but there are a lot of people here who talk a good game, and then there's another matter altogether about actually writing an inventory and making amends, and even when it's inconvenient, to try and help people, some of these kinds of things. And I could see that this guy was doing a lot of that stuff, and it really, I can't say it appealed to me, but he was a free man, and I didn't need anybody else to tell me that. I could see that guy was free. He had been sober at that point when I met him, about 35 years. So anyway, man, I started going over there. And after a number of Tuesday nights, one of the guys that he was meeting with turned to me and said, "Well, what's your story?" in front of all these other guys. And I said, and I looked at these guys, and I said, "Well," I said, "if this is what being sober is all about, I would rather kill myself than do this, live like this." And it was the first time that I had actually really, don't get me wrong, I'm a grand champion complainer, but this, it was the first time that I had really told the truth. And I was resentful. I was jealous. I felt completely alone. I just had so much pain inside me about losing my family life and the divorce and all this other kind of stuff. I couldn't get work. As I said, I was a nurse. I'd had all my licenses taken away from me. I was in big trouble in all that kind of area. And I just said, and Jerry Shelton said something to me that night, and he said, and I had heard this 1,000 times before, and he said to me, "Well, it sounds to me like you're powerless and your life is unmanageable." And I swear to God, man, I'd heard that 1,000 times. I shit you not. I'd heard that many, many times. But the night that he said that to me, I was ready to hear that. And what happened for me is that I got shot out of a cannon that night. I got shot right out of the cannon, right into AA. And I started following him around, and he got me a book, and he started reading to me. And if you don't go for this version of, the kind of way to get sober, I mean, no offense, I'm not here to try and convince anybody of anything. But what happened for me was I needed the book, and that's what this guy did with me. He met with me several times a week. We would meet over on Schill Shoal. We'd park out there, and he lived in a school bus, and he read the book to me, and I, very haltingly did the things that he asked me to do. I lied to him sometimes, but I had been sober for, I don't know, a year and a half before I realized you could tell a sponsor to fuck off. I didn't know that, man. And I met when he said, and tried to do the things that he, that were in the book with his direction. And I wrote an inventory, and I read it. And then there were from the inventory, there was a list of people you people are in AA, where this is not, the great thing is you don't have to reinvent some magic story. I had a list of people that I had hurt Yeah, could you get me some water, man? I have been having some health trouble, and I don't want to start throwing up bile here. I got diagnosed with liver cancer about 9 months ago, and sometimes I just anyway. So I started doing this stuff with him, and and it was he directed me. Thanks. Can I have it? So, I want to say something about the men's. How much time do I have? That means left.
Yes.
I'm good, because it's really important that I talk about some of the amends that I made. It was really an important part of getting sober for me. The ex-wife who became my ex-wife, and I'm glad she's not here tonight so I can talk bad about her. That's a joke. Anyway, I blamed her for everything that went wrong with those kids and my family. And after I wrote that inventory, I realized I was wrong about every single one of those things. And it was really a painful thing to look at. But he told me that didn't matter, that it was painful to me. What mattered was that I go straighten it out. So so I saw Roxanne, and when I was in detox, I had this counselor who subsequently she started having she began to know biblically, if you know what I mean. And I hated that guy, and she ended up marrying him, and they're been married, I don't know, 30 years now or something like that. And at every turn of the screw with James and Hannah now, when we've had some rough patches in the family life, and some of these things that we've had to go through as a family, some deaths and some just some family trouble. Every step of the way, man, Tim has been there to be. He's been more solid in many instances than I have, and so I was completely wrong about Tim. And I've had a chance to talk to him about all of that at length. It wasn't just a one and done deal on some of those kinds of family things. Sorry. It's kind of embarrassing, man. Anyway, and I had to pay back some money. I'm a nurse, and had to go see a bunch of former employers, and I had this list, and one by one we went down it, and I can say now at this point in my sober life that I'm current in that area of my life, and it's taken a long time. The idea, it's just ludicrous, man, given that the way I lived and what I was doing. It's ludicrous to think that I burned through this list and then that's it. It just hasn't been like that. I mean, in the end, I was committing different kinds of crimes to get, to steal and get money and for drugs and to drink and stuff. And the idea that I don't know, I can just look back on some of these things the way that I've thought in the sober life over the years. It's just kind of ludicrous. And then, and I would also like to say something about this. I've been very slow to wake up to this idea. In the step 10 in the big book, it says that we're going to continue to watch for these things when they crop up, and I am so grateful that the way AA was given to me was, it wasn't that, what makes me useful here isn't that I've done this stuff and now I've been struck perfect. What makes me useful here is that I've screwed this up in about every kind of way you probably could. And so I got some direction for that kind of thing. I've pulled some real boners in AA, and I've never been kicked out. I love that in AA. It has meant so much to me that I didn't have to be well to be here. I got to be. I was met at the door where they met me where I was. It wasn't like I had to get super well and then be, to be accepted here. And I have found out now that kind of stuff, like these mistakes and some of these things that I've said and done and thought, and that these things are actually useful now to other people. I've been a guy who's I've sponsored a lot of people in AA, and sometimes when I hear people say that, it almost kind of sounds like they're bragging or something. And so I don't mean it like that. I just mean it like, man, well, the book makes it clear that that nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. And I hope it's okay if I say this, but Dave and I've done some step work with Dave, and I look at a guy like Dave, and I don't mean to embarrass you here, man, but I count Dave. I count Dave as one of my closest friends. I've been through so much with him. And the greatest thing about a guy like Dave, for me, having taken time to try and help him here, is that I know that no matter what I would do, or I just know that Dave would never turn his back on me. And I mean, you try and do the stuff that I did. I remember one time in the operating room, this anesthesiologist, he said, I'm gonna go, I got to use the bathroom, and I'm going to get a cup of coffee on the way back in. I want you to come up here and watch the patient. And I thought to myself, that is a bad idea. But she knows. So he left, and these guys, they leave syringes of drugs up on the anesthesia machine. And I just went right through my surgical scrubs with some Sufenta right into my leg. And I immediately lost consciousness and fell over on the patient. And that's how they found me. And so, when you talk to, then you come back and you say, well, I was really out of line. Or, the things that you'd say, that you'd say in your amends. Here's what those guys say. They say, well, we can see that you're on the right track here, but be that as it may, you're still fired, and the DEA is waiting for you in the nurse manager's office. I mean, but coming back to this thing, like with people like Dave, I mean, I don't. It's not that I don't believe in the science life. It's not that I don't believe in all those kinds of things. But I know with a friend like Dave and Nancy and some of these other people that I've met and am real close to in AA, but in particular the ones that I've done step work with, they know the truth about me, and I know the truth about them. And I get to be exactly who I am. I'm who God made me. And so I want to say something about having gotten sick has really messed in many ways, it's really kind of messed I got to go back down to I'm getting all my care down at the University of California, San Francisco Medical Center at UCSF. They've got a really good liver team down there, and I found out that this thing is spread, so I got to go down and have some pancreas surgery now, and And I have these moments, man, where I am so, I just, I don't know that I'm going to call it being afraid, but I just don't know what's coming. And I was, I don't, one, I'm not going to say complaining about it, but I was talking about this, just about how, I guess, just how scared and just unsure I am about my life right now. I was telling Kenny this, and Kenny said to me, and this is why, if you're new and you're thinking about, or, you know, if you don't have a sponsor, or you're wondering what that would be like, hey man, I'm not here to tell you anything about that. But every time that I go to this guy, he says things to me like, well, you, you're trying, you're stepping on a scale to take your temperature. That's what he said to me the last time. He said, you're stepping on a scale trying to take your temperature. And he says stuff like that because, you know, he knows I'm a nurse and everything. And see, that's right. I mean, I'm always trying to use the wrong tool. And I haven't said anything about a belief in and a dependence upon a power greater than me. But the golden lining, if you will, the silver lining is, I think, how that expression goes. The silver lining on getting sick, and some of these things that I've had to stare. I had a big liver surgery in June, and just all this other stuff. The real silver lining of it has been that even in spite of all these things, man, I can still feel a conscious contact. I can still feel God's presence in my life. And how that happened was that deal when I heard Jerry that night say that your life, you're powerless and your life is unmanageable. That debate was over, and I am not an AAer who has been able to straighten himself out, and I know this might be a little bit unpopular, but I don't really believe in myself. I mean, I can show up for a job, or, you know, I've raised three kids in the sober life and some stuff like that. But this deal, man, I mean, I need a power. I've needed God's, I've actually needed to know that God cares about me. And I want to say one thing, man. I got about 2 minutes. Listen, man, I am the most ill-qualified person in this room to try to make anyone think any way about God or about the spiritual life. I am so grateful that the book in Agnostic said, "Hey, man, you don't have to consider what anybody else's view. You don't have to consider. You don't have to really necessarily be so concerned about whether it's God, Allah, Confucius, Buddha, you know, all that stuff. You don't have to worry about any of that. That's not really your concern. Your concern here, as someone who admitted deep down inside themselves that they are powerless and that your life is unmanageable and that you're in way over your head. Your job here is to seek that contact, and I've been doing that. And it's been halting, and I've had many moments along the way where I haven't felt it, and have done some really stupid, selfish things here. But I like being able to tell the truth about that now, and it's really important. I mean, I'm sober in April. It'll be 35 years, and it's really important for someone, in my opinion, who has been sober for a while to tell the truth about that I don't have what it takes to straighten out my life or keep myself safe and protected from alcohol, and that I need God's help for direction. And I used to think that sounded terrible, and it, you know, it turns out it can be even worse than that, but also it can be really beautiful. And I've had some moments where I've had in this last couple months being sick and just being all, throwing up hunks of liver in the bathroom and stuff. I've had some moments where I climb back into bed, man, and I'm at complete peace. I don't really, well, I've just kind of bounced back from being nervous about all this, but I don't really, to tell you the truth, I don't really give a shit about that. What I care about is staying sober and trying to be useful here and trying to be honest. And I have found that the kiss of death here is to think that you're kind of a big shot around here, that, you start falling in love with the sound of your own voice and all that kind of stuff, man. It's just, those are terrible things to suffer from. And so AA is designed to pare those things down. And in my case, a lot of that stuff has taken many, many years, man. This has not been a overnight matter for me. I'm grateful to all of you. Many of you I don't know, but I know that if you're in here tonight, there's probably a pretty good chance that something wasn't going so right. And I just, at some point you come to AA and get sobered up, and I'm really glad to be a part of that, man. It's the most important part of my life. And so I'm going to leave it with 30 seconds and say, okay, man, thanks.